Let's take a look at Microsoft SQL Server recovery models. So Microsoft provides us with three different recovery models. We have the simple recovery model, the full recovery model, and the bulk logged recovery model. Now let's discuss what a recovery model is. So it's a property of the database that controls the following: how the SQL Server logs the transactions for database, whether the transaction log of the database requires being backed up, and what kind of restore operations that are available for restoring the database. Now, a transaction at a high level would represent a change being done within the database. Therefore, the transaction log is a file that keeps track of each transaction being done within the database. You're able to identify the recovery model that is set on a particular database in SQL Server Management Studio by going to that particular database. So we'll go under our database folder and then select the database that we're interested in identifying the recovery model, right clicking on it, selecting properties and going to options, and we're seeing the recovery model, and for this particular database it's set to full. Now when you're creating new databases in SQL Server, what it uses is it uses the system database, the model database within the system database specifically, as a template when creating new databases. So what that ultimately means is whatever recovery model is set on the model database, it will by default be placed on any newly created database. So let's have a check to see what the model that is on the system model database set at. So we're going to right click and go on properties, then going into options, we're able to see that the recovery model is set to simple. Now we're able to make the change on the model database or any user database, the recovery model that we'd want to have placed for it. So we can change the recovery model database or the model database to bulk log. So if we were to click OK and recheck the information, we'll see that the changes have been saved and it has now been set to bulk log. So any newly created database, the recovery model for that database will be bulk log. Now, SQL Server Tutorial.net has a particular article that highlights the different recovery models that are present in SQL Server Management Studio. So, in short, the simple recovery model does not keep track of a transaction log. The full recovery model, it keeps account of the transaction log. So every item or every transaction being done is kept in a transaction log that is able to be referred to at a later date. And the bulk log recovery model is very similar to the full recovery model. However, it does not keep track of operations that begin with the bulk insert, for example. So it does not keep track of bulk operations. So I'll suggest you read through this article. I'll put this link in the description below. You're able to make reference to the article to go through and get a deeper understanding as to what the simple recovery model, the full recovery model, and the bulk log recovery model is, and the different characteristics of those models.